when you eat more fresh in season food, you feel lighter, you feel fresher, you need less of it because it's transferring more energy to you. Older food, so food that you purchase from a grocery store that's in a package, in a bag, you need to eat more of it because it has a lower frequency. It has less energy that it's going into you. So high vibration, low vibration foods is referencing how much energy is in the food.
Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Hey friend, welcome back to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm Jenn Trepeck, your host and health coach, here with you every week for wellness without the weirdness. Now, if you're a longtime listener, you know I don't often have groceries in my house. I happen to right now, but that's not all the time. And I often tell my clients, I don't cook, I make food. So there's a difference, right? Like you all know there's a difference. And I say this with love. I have seen it with my clients and friends. So I know this about some of you listening, right? Some of us love cooking. Some of us don't, but do it anyway. Some of us can't cook, and some of us probably are better off leaving the kitchen to other people, right? One of the major differences, I think, with the Salad with a Side of Fries approach to health is that no matter which group you fall into, all of you fit here, that health can be yours no matter what. With that said, I also think there's an empowerment that happens when we feel confident in the kitchen and in the grocery store. So this week, I have a truly incredible guest to help us feel more confident and empowered when it comes to cooking and choosing ingredients. So let me introduce you. She's a personal chef where she crafts custom meal plans for clients, guiding them towards their best lives, and is the founder of High Vibration Foods. She healed herself of an autoimmune disease and chronic digestive issues with food by attending culinary school at the Natural Gourmet Institute in New York City. By studying Eastern and Western philosophies of healing, she uncovered the root causes of her suffering. Through her blog, Starseed Kitchen, she shares seasonal high vibration recipes, and her line of organic spice blends, High Vibration Foods, which she launched in 2020, is now available in Erewhon Market for all of our West Coasters. She firmly believes that the healthiest meal one can eat is the one prepared at home. Her goal is to share her culinary knowledge to empower people to cook nourishing meals in their own kitchens. Please help me welcome Chef Whitney Aronoff.
Thank you. That was so lovely.
You're welcome. I need what's the horn, like the bow, 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 or sound effects or something, right?
Yes.
Well, I'm so glad you're here. I feel like we should tell everybody this is not our first conversation. We connected, goodness, it was maybe even almost a year ago. Mm-hmm. And for everybody, when you're done listening here, pop over to High Vibration Living podcast, which is Whitney's show. Check out the episode. It aired May 21st of 2024. We talked about willpower. We talked about changing habits, our routines, so many fun things.
Yeah, that was a really great episode. Thank you.
Yeah. So everybody go listen to High Vibration Living when you finish here. And Whitney, I want to start with more of your story.
Yeah.
And then we'll go from there. But super quick, we have to tell our members what they're getting this week. So members, in honor of Valentine's Day, at the end of this week, if you're listening, the day we go live, I'm sending you a recipe for chocolate raspberry cashew butter cups. They are a great example of what today's episode is all about, the quality of our ingredients. And there are only 4 ingredients in this recipe. So it's surprisingly easy and very impressive, not to mention delicious. So if you want this recipe, be sure you're a member. Go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. For $10 a month, you get weekly recipes, a monthly article or tool, extra discounts from me and our partners, plus access to live Q&A sessions. It's a total deal. I say it all the time. It's a steal when you take advantage of the full offerings because you save far more than that $10. It's a no-brainer way to show yourself that your health is a priority. Plus, being a member supports this podcast and this community so we can continue to bring you new episodes and experts every week. So remember, you're going to go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries, or just click the link in the episode notes because That's a lot easier. Once you're there, you click the little I agree button and then support now. Enter your email and payment info, click subscribe, and you're all set. You'll get this week's recipe for the chocolate raspberry cashew butter cups. Perfect for Valentine's Day or really anytime. Okay, Whitney, tell us why you chose to go to Natural Gourmet Institute when you were suffering from, an autoimmune and GI challenges. Like, where did that connect for you?
Because I had spent 10 years, even more than that, actually. Starting at 16, I went to culinary school in my early 30s. I had spent thousands and thousands of dollars going to doctors on the East Coast and the West Coast, trying to figure out the root cause before the word root cause was
like a thing.
Mainstream. Yeah. I wanted to know what was going on and what I could do to turn it around. Part of it's taking full responsibility. So is it something that I'm eating? Is it something that I'm doing? Is it a supplement that I'm missing? Like, why am I having stomach pain every night before I go to bed? Why is my weight fluctuating? Why am I'm just all these consistent things that keep changing and evolving? And, it doesn't seem to matter what I am eating or how I am exercising. I'm having these problems consistently throughout the years. And no doctor could ever help me. So I just thought, I'm in this body. I know what I'm feeling. I know what I'm experiencing. I can learn to heal myself. I just need the tools and insights to do so. So I needed to find a school that could teach me just as much about food and food preparation as it could about health. So I needed to find a school that was going to have classes with registered dietitians as well as hands-on cooking technique. But I knew that there was a missing ingredient. I knew that I needed to learn about traditional food preparation because modern food is actually the issue and modern food preparation is the issue. I wanted to find out how my ancestors were eating traditionally because that fueled them and allowed them to live long, healthy lives and for their offspring to prosper. So I wanted that whole vision of food. And then I also wanted to understand the traditional foods of different cultures and see how they all really blend together and are actually the same.
I love it. And so I'm sort of curious, what do you think was like the greatest insight or thing that you learned from culinary school that led to your healing?
So I ultimately learned that a lot of my issues were actually emotional. And by improving my diet, upgrading all the ingredients, the cooking techniques, a lot of things I'll get into, it then allowed for me to treat the emotional issues. So all the feelings I was stuffing down, and then a lot of the spiritual stuff. It allowed me to address the physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental body. But I couldn't do so until I laid the right foundation with my diet. And what I found was I was eating like a modern, healthy diet, which isn't a healthy diet. So I was eating smoothies in the morning in the middle of winter. I was having salads for lunch every day. And I was always eating, some sort of leftover for dinner. And what I learned having to start culinary school in the middle of winter in New York City is you can't eat cold food in the winter. You're going to be cold. And being from Southern California, I wasn't putting the dots together that my breakfast was cold, my lunch was cold, my dinner was cold. So therefore, that was playing a role in me constantly feeling cold, no matter how many layers I put on. But then the digestive issues were coming up because I was constantly putting out the digestive fire. So, we want to eat warm foods because it makes it easier for our body to digest it. And if we can't digest our food, we can't digest our life. The food's going to get stuck there. We're not going to be able to, absorb the nutrients. And that's the whole point of eating. We eat for energy and nutrient absorption. And if we're eating a bunch of cold food, so we're putting a bunch of water on the fire, the fire is going to go out. And that's when the digestive issues start. So I had to relearn to eat. Like I had to get comfortable with eating warm breakfasts, warm lunch, warm dinner, more soups, more stews, more slow cooked meats. And that really changed everything for me, warmed me from the inside out.
I love it. We're so aligned. And it reminded me of a conversation we had when I was on your show about the vagus nerve and that communication between the gut and the brain. And, when I work with somebody, we start with the food because the other stuff gets easier when we start there.
It's so true. It's like you get the food right, you lay the foundation. I always say food is the foundation. There's a good, better, best. You got to start somewhere. You just start with one item, you start to upgrade. But when you get the foundation right, life becomes easy and you stop focusing on food, you start enjoying life. And then you realize all the other layers that have been holding you back. And it's easy for you to evolve those things now that you've gotten the food right. It's really amazing how our body kind of works like an onion or like the construction of a home. We just have to lay the right foundation and then everything else can really start to fall into place.
Yeah. And so this reminds me, it all connects to your company is High Vibration Foods. Mm-hmm. Your show is High Vibration Living. Like I'm seeing a connection here, but I'm sort of like, draw the connection for everybody to make sure they're with us.
Sure.
What does High Vibration Foods and High Vibration Living really mean?
So food is a vibration, right? So we are all vibrating. So every single human on the planet has a vibration, has a frequency. And there's a variety, actually multiple different machines that exist on the planet where someone can actually measure your frequency. It's not just seeing the color of your aurora, which changes, is everyone's vibrating at a frequency. And so that's a lot of like what you hear where like attracts like. Like you'll be around a bunch of people that are vibrating at your same frequency with the same kind of thought patterns, food patterns, lifestyle patterns. But if you want to elevate your life and get to a new social circle, a new financial income, a new lifestyle level, right? You have to change your frequency to match that which you want to match. So you have to upgrade your frequency, your body's ability to hold light. So light is the frequency, it's the energy. How much light can your body hold? You have to prime it. So the food that we eat, what we put inside us and what we put on us is affecting our frequency level. So if we talk about your clothes, polyester, spandex, those have a very low frequency. Linen, cotton has a very high frequency. So that's why often when people wear natural fibers, they feel better because they're wearing a higher frequency. So you can do the same thing with food. When you eat more fresh in season food that was, picked and then you consume it really quickly within a few hours, you feel lighter, you feel fresher, you need less of it because it's transferring more energy to you. Older food, so food that you purchase from a grocery store that's in a package, in a bag, that's been sitting there for a long period of time, you need to eat more of it because it has a lower frequency. It has less energy that it's going into you. So high vibration, low vibration foods is referencing how much energy is in the food, what the frequency level is of the food.
Yeah. So essentially what I'm hearing is that food, or really eating, is a transfer of energy.
Yes.
And so what we consume impacts our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health. Like, when we say holistic health, what I mean is every aspect of health versus I feel like there's a lot of definitions now to the word holistic.
It's like modern Western medicine and more traditional holistic medicine. So modern Western medicine is used to treating just one body part. So your finger hurts, we treat the finger. Holistic medicine would say, okay, your finger hurts. Well, what's going on with your jaw? What's going on with your mind? What's going on with your gut? It's going to look at the whole picture and understand how every part of you is connected. And that is what could be causing the pain in the finger. So it's the same thing. You have a physical body, which you can touch. We have a mental body, which more people are familiar of now. You have a spiritual body. You have an emotional body. We actually have, I stick to on the podcast, bringing on experts that will help you understand how to nourish your physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental body. But there's more layers than that. We are really complex beings, and there's so many more layers than that. But just starting with those 4 is a great place to start to help you understand what the food transfer of energy is doing for you.
Yeah, I love it. And I often say, with a lot of, when we think about the food industry and the foods that we eat, and even what you were saying of you were eating what you thought was quote unquote healthy, yes. Right? And inevitably in wellness culture, there's always sort of the demonized foods, and sometimes for good reason, but
yeah,
I think I often say a lot of the issues, like red meat, for example, red meat's not the issue. It's the quality of the red meat that we're having.
Yes.
So from your perspective, and I feel like this is a very loaded question, but what do people really need to understand about our food system before we get into like walking through the grocery store and like making our meals?
Yeah. So the food system is just like any other business system out there, right? So if you own a large company where you have to consistently show your stakeholders higher profit margins every quarter, you're going to always look at your waste and figure out, where are we losing money? Where do we have excess waste where we can repurpose it? So a lot of times when you see new products come to the market, especially when it comes to snack food, packaged food, frozen food, processed food, anything that's not immediately fresh, grown on a farm, you can just pick it and eat it. Any of that processed food, you always have to ask yourself, where's the waste from? So I'll give you a great example that a lot of people aren't talking about. So let's look at avocado oil, right? Avocado oil is communicated with large marketing budgets as a health food and a healthier oil with a high smoke point. So you have to understand, high smoke point isn't real. That's science. That's like calories. It's not traditional eating. It's not traditional cooking. So let's look at when avocado oil was created. So avocado oil was created in the late 90s in New Zealand by a company that found that it had excess avocado peels. All right. So you have to remember, avocado oil doesn't come from the seed of the avocado. It comes from the peel of the avocado. So what was happening in the 90s? In the 90s, they were starting to make guacamole that was shelf stable. Right? So traditionally, if you wanted guacamole, you could only have guacamole where avocados grew, right? So you would take a bunch of avocados that were ripe and scoop out the meat, and you'd make yourself a fresh batch of guacamole. Well, they were starting to now use citric acid to keep it shelf stable for a few weeks and ship it across the country. And they were doing this in places all over the world. So you were starting to see guacamole on the shelves everywhere, where, well, if you look at a company and you're thinking, how can I continue to increase my profits? You always look at your waste. So we have all these avocado seeds and we have all these avocado skins. What can we make with it? So they figured out that they could press the skins of the waste of the avocados and make an oil. And then they sell that oil to you. And then they sell it that it's safe to cook with, because they've been able to twist the language around to tell you that you're able to fry food in it and it's going to be good for you. But avocado oil isn't a traditional oil. At no time in history has anyone ever been making avocado oil until the 90s. And so if you look at the Weston A. Price Foundation and any real traditional healthy food and lifestyle, you always look at how people have been eating, preparing, and cooking foods for thousands of years. And that's using olive oil, coconut oil, lard, animal fat, ghee, butter, not avocado oil. Avocado oil is a great example of our modern food system. Is it looks at where there's waste and how can we repurpose it and sell it to you as food. So the food industry isn't there to make you healthy and happy and nourish you. It's just another industry for profit. And that doesn't mean that there aren't small farms and small brands that are trying to do the right thing. I am with my organic spice blends. There's a lot of small businesses out there and a lot of small family farms out there, but the only person looking out for you is you. And the only one that knows what feels good in your body is you. So you have to understand how to purchase food and prepare food for yourself. That's like one thing that you really have to learn how to do for yourself is research the brands that you're buying, read the ingredient labels, trust your gut. If it doesn't feel good, then let it pass. One of my spiritual teachers, her name's Lavendar. She's a very famous astrologer. She has a saying that let that cup pass your lips. Like, not everything is for you. Just because everyone's doing it doesn't mean you have to do it too. So if everyone's eating a certain food, it's becoming trendy in your community, it doesn't mean you need to participate in it. It might not be for you. Just because everyone's buying this new snack food doesn't mean you have to too. You really got to trust your gut. And if you don't know what that means or what that feels like, then you need to learn to strengthen your intuition. And there's a lot of different people and practices out there that can help you do that. But it's 2025, friends. It's a 9-year. It's a year of endings. It's a year of new beginnings, but it's also the year of spiritual awakenings. And so if you're going to make it here on how life is evolving, you got to learn to hear and feel your intuition. And it's going to play a big part in figuring out the foods that work for you. I know that's a lot, but
I'm with you and I love it. And I think, it's interesting. Some of you may remember we did an episode with Udo Erasmus called Fats, Plants, and Us. And one of the things he talked about was how cooking with oil was created by the oil industry. That again, going back to traditionally, what did you cook with? Water, right? Nothing, fat, lard, right? Like before all of these other things existed, it's interesting. So I want to keep going and dig deeper into how we can take these tools and say, you were mentioning seasonal and choosing quality ingredients and reading those labels. So dig deeper into that in a second. Let's take this moment to highlight our partner for this episode. Big thanks to Layered Jewelry for supporting Salad with a Side of Fries. The modern woman is multifaceted, taking on many important roles in the various aspects of her life. Inspired by her own multi-layered life as a busy mom, trendsetter, entrepreneur, and influencer, Amber Ridinger McLaughlin set out to create a line of jewelry that lets women create their unique style and celebrate their beautiful layers. Layered is luxurious and affordable, the perfect combination for the modern woman. Layered allows you to mix, match, stack, and layer pieces that make you feel empowered and beautiful. Each piece is handcrafted to be unique and exquisite just for you. So it might be a little late to order if you want a piece of jewelry or something to arrive by Valentine's Day. But I think it's never too late to buy yourself a little something. And what I love most about Layered is that it won't break the bank, but it looks like it could. Every time I wear my Layered jewelry, someone says, "Oh, I love that." In particular, this even happened last week. The Angie ring is like this small eternity band. I bought like every finish of it. So I have like 3 of them. I wear them stacked. They're like $55.95 each. And every time, last week, somebody complimented me on them. And I was like, I'll send you a link, right? So by the way, that price also is before your 10% off and free shipping for being a Salad with a Side of Fries listener. So simply text the word layered, LAYERED, to 844-947-4846. You'll receive the link and coupon code right to your phone. Again, simply text the word layered, LAYERED, to 844-947-4846 to get this handcrafted, luxurious yet affordable jewelry at 10% off and free shipping. This is a toll-free number. Standard text and data rates may apply. Also, since you already listened to Salad with a Side of Fries, check out SheMD. The SheMD podcast is on a mission to change the world of women's health by educating one woman at a time with the knowledge and expertise to be their own health advocate. Sound familiar? From fertility and PCOS to mental health and menopause, SheMD tackles many of today's major health concerns and questions, all from the lens of women. I love the episodes featuring Dr. A's expertise around endometriosis and PCOS. And just like Salad with a Side of Fries, SheMD believes in empowerment through knowledge. SheMD, though, brings you the Western medicine angle, except it's like if your doctor actually explained everything to you. New episodes drop every Tuesday. Check out SheMD wherever you get your podcasts today. Okay, Whitney, back to you. Ingredients or foods, where we really want to make sure we're choosing quality options. I guess maybe we start, there's pieces to this in terms of choosing the food, how we prepare it, and then even when we eat it. So you tell us, where's the best place to start?
So I would like when you guys go grocery shopping to think good, better, best, right? So let's look at rice, right? So most people at some point buy rice and prepare rice. I really hope you guys wash your rice. Rice is dirty. You have to learn to wash it. So you need to buy a sieve. In this day and age, there's plenty of videos on YouTube, on social media, where you can see how to wash rice correctly and prepare it. So we're not going to get into that. But when you're standing in the rice aisle, there's a few different things that you can look at, right? So they have rice that's prepared in little bowls that you can microwave. You don't ever want to purchase any food that goes in the microwave because that's putting a negative frequency in your food. And so we've talked about food and frequency and how it's a transfer of energy for you today. So that's not going to transfer any energy for you. That's actually going to put dangerous energy into you. And that's a whole nother episode. So you cancel out anything that requires you to use a microwave. Then still, we're in the rice aisle. You're going to see a lot of like 5-minute rice, 10-minute rice, quick rice. Again, you want to avoid those because it's now a processed food. So that rice has been tainted in order for it to cook in an untraditional amount of time in order to get on your plate. And if you cut corners now, it's going to affect you later. So you need to pass on all of that. It's processed food. It's not good for you. It's not going to provide you energy. It's not going to provide you nourishment. It's not going to raise your vibration. It's not going to leave you feeling good. And at the end of the day, I know you guys are listening to this podcast because you want to feel good in your body. So you want to make sure you're just looking at rice. So you can look for organic rice or regular rice. Obviously, in this day and age, organic's better unless it's labeled heirloom rice, small family farm, filtered water, unless there's some sort of information on there telling you why they aren't organic, which a lot of brands are doing now, because in order to have that organic stamp, it costs that family, that company a lot of money to fill out those certification forms, and it's not necessarily worth it. It is a food scam, but a lot of businesses do it because they have to in order to get you the labeling you need in order to buy it. So again, just read the ingredients, read the messages that are on the packaging. Like for instance, I'm here in Southern California. There is a farmer's market I can go to where I can buy rice. And the family has had their rice farms for over 100 years in California. It's an heirloom variety of rice that the family brought over in the late 1800s from Japan. It is not certified organic. That is okay because they communicate the story of how it's still heirloom variety. They've never used pesticides, herbicides, or insecticides on their rice. It's great rice. And that's like quality that you can't get in a grocery store. But there's still excellent qualities that you can get in a grocery store, but you always need to look for the real thing, never the 10-minute, the quick, the microwavable rice. So that's like a good, better, best example for you guys.
I love it. And speaking of grains, right? I feel like grains have also been sort of demonized in the world.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit, like you mentioned, rinsing the rice.
Yes.
Can you talk also about, soaking or sprouting grains and what's actually happening and which grains we want to do that with?
Yeah.
So
when you can, you definitely want to soak your rice overnight for at least 4 hours to 8 hours. So if you know you're going to make rice for dinner tomorrow night, if you can just put them in a bowl with some water and have it soak overnight and then wash it, that's ideal because we're reactivating the food. That same goes with nuts. And a lot of people don't realize that with nuts is you should soak a lot of your raw nuts to take off that outer layer of like the almond because you're going to digest it better. You're going to have less digestive distress, but you're reactivating. So you're bringing the food back to life. So a lot of people also love to snack on dried fruits. But if you go over to Europe, if you go over to Morocco, different parts of the world, the fruit was dried. So that way you would have fruit in the middle of winter so you could sweeten your meals. So they never ate the dried fruit. They cooked with the dried fruit. So if you look at a lot of Moroccan recipes, they put the dried fruits in the bone broth, in the soups and stews to bring some sweetness and some vibrancy to your food in the middle of winter. So we've taken a lot of food that was done in a traditional way for winter nourishment and turned it into health food. And if you talk to colon hydrotherapists, they'll tell you that their biggest pet peeve is clients that eat dried fruit because it has so much sugar, but it's so dehydrating for the body and it gets stuck in the colon. And a lot of people get digestive issues and get backed up because their body can't move the dried fruit through their system because there's no water, there's no hydration. So you really should look at food it's a transfer of energy, but like what's going to be easy on my body? What's going to hydrate me from the inside out? So if you start to look at food and look at moist food, wet food, soups, stews, things with hydration, that's going to give you more energy, more nourishment, more water. It's going to fill you up. You're going to need less. You're going to start to connect a lot of dots when you start to make these little tweaks. And obviously we know we are in a modern world. So like I can't even soak my nuts all the time. I can't even soak my rice all the time, but I do it when I can. So when I can plan ahead, I'll take a bunch of almonds, I'll put it in a little bowl of water, and I'll just put them in the fridge. And then every morning I'll take a little handful out and I'll peel them. The skin comes right off, and then I'll put them on top of my oatmeal. And a lot of times if people are having allergy reactions to nuts, simply removing that skin makes the allergy go away. And then they also have less stomach pain. So there's little tweaks that you can make. So if you're finding that a food isn't working for you anymore, maybe you need to just take a step back of how you're eating it. So how is it being prepared? What's the source? Is there a step that you're missing? Maybe there's a tweak that we need to make.
Yeah, will you speak to sprouting grains for people to even understand what that means? Because I also think it's become a bit of a marketing buzzword in processed foods. Yeah,
you really don't need sprouted foods, and you don't need to buy sprouted foods. You just simply need to buy the raw whole food and wash it properly or soak it. And the product will tell you if it needs to be washed or soaked. And there's a lot of traditional health food books that you can kind of get to keep in your kitchen that'll remind you, okay, so yes, I need to wash my quinoa. I need to wash my rice. If I can soak it, that's great. But you don't need to pay the extra money to buy it sprouted.
Love it. What are some other, like, fruits and vegetables, seasonal, right? You spoke to that before. And you also spoke to, like, thinking about what seems appropriate for the season also, like not having tons of cold food in the winter.
Yeah. And when it comes to fruits and vegetables seasonally, number one, you're going to taste the difference. So it's really easy to stop buying food out of season because it just doesn't taste good. There's no flavor. And then also, if food is out of season, it's going to be more expensive. And you can spend the extra money if you want to get your asparagus shipped in from Mexico, but it's not going to have as much energy transfer for you. And now it's going to cost you $6.99 for a bunch instead of $2.99 for a bunch. So if you really want that asparagus, go for it. But you could just wait till it's asparagus season, which is the spring, and eat it then. It's going to cost less. It's going to have more flavor. And it's going to make more sense with your body. So let's look at the energy asparagus and food, for instance. So it's the middle of winter. Like, how do you want to feel in the winter? You kind of want to feel cozy. You want to feel grounded. You want to feel warm. So you're going to eat the foods that are in the season because it's going to give you that. So the foods that are in season are all the root vegetables. So anything that's burrowing itself into the ground. Carrots, rutabagas, potatoes, beets, parsnips, the things that grow into the earth. That's what's available. And so because it's growing into the earth, it's going to give you that grounding, warm, cozy feeling, because you also kind of have to slow cook them in order to, activate them and make them enjoyable to eat. Now, if we look at the springtime, we're all going outside. We're all putting our faces in the sun. We're all stretching our bodies up towards the sun. We're so excited to be out for spring. And if you look at all the plants, they're now all sprouting and moving towards the sun. And if you think about asparagus, it's doing the same thing. It's growing straight up towards the sun. That's the motion that we all want to move. So now we start eating the food that's moving in that motion towards the sun. So food grows in a certain way, and our bodies mimic that motion that they're growing in. And I understand it might sound overwhelming, but really when you start to look at how your food grows and what's in season where you are, it should simplify your life.
Yeah. And at the very least, I mean, you can Google, I live here, what fruits and vegetables are in season right now. Let's go back to something you mentioned before, which was cooking methods.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of confusion. We talked about the microwave. What are some things, I mean, not everybody is a chef. Mm-hmm. But what are some ways we can think about how we prepare our foods and cook our foods to create quality experiences, like that energy transfer, and also a quality, enjoyable experience for the eating?
Yeah. Well, I actually have to say, as a chef who has worked in a lot of different people's homes to prepare meals, whether I'm going there to cook a dinner party or I'm doing meal prep, I find the number one thing that makes cooking difficult is bad kitchen equipment. Like, it really isn't fun when you have pots and pans that are heavy, that are bulky, that are scratched up, that are ugly, that, they don't cook the food well. So really, if you're using a bunch of cheap stuff from Walmart, from Target, you're going to continue to have bad results. If there's one thing to invest in, it is your kitchen equipment, your pots and pans. If you buy the really good stuff, you'll have it for life. It's going to make cooking a lot more fun and a lot more easy. Don't go for any gimmicks on Instagram. I swear to God, I've cooked in kitchens where they've bought that stuff, and I'm a chef and I didn't enjoy cooking. It makes it hard. So your kitchen equipment's number one. And then number two, you just need to really know the basics. If you can boil water, you can do a lot. And if you can turn on your oven, you can do a lot. Steam and blanch are like number one. So you can buy a steaming basket or you can learn to blanch, which is just boiling water, adding good quality salt, and putting things in and out of that water and allowing the water to cook the food. And then using your oven as well. So cooking can be really easy, but it depends on what your baseline products are that I find can make it difficult.
Yeah. Blanching and roasting are my go-tos when I feel like I'm making food versus cooking. Because I feel like in my head, cooking is a ton of pots and pans and a ton of ingredients and all these things. I want to ask you, like, feel free to name names, be specific, because I think when it comes to the good stuff of the brands and equipment, there's so much marketing and such a price range that it's like, what is the good stuff?
Yeah. So let me just think of off the top of my head and kind of look. So my favorite place to obviously buy pots and pans is really Williams-Sonoma. And then sometimes I'll price check at Sur La Table. But I would say for pots and pans, what I recommend everyone has in their kitchen is you need stainless steel. So pure stainless steel. So you can do, on the cheap side, you could do Cuisinart. Cuisinart has great stainless steel pots and pans. And then on the expensive side, All Clad. On the cheap side for the stainless steel, you can do Williams-Sonoma brand. You can do Made In. But then on the expensive side, you can do All Clad. But you'll have these forever. And they're really so easy to work with. I also really like the brand Extrema Cookware, Xtrema Cookware. It's made from clay. So it's the most non-toxic cooking material out there. I've actually switched to that for my skillets. So I have their 7-inch skillet, their 10-inch skillet. It's what I use for eggs in the morning because it's completely non-toxic. And as you use it more frequently, it kind of becomes non-stick because you don't wash it every time you cook in it. So it just will naturally become non-stick. If you don't have enough fat in the pan, that's when things stick to the pan. I'm really into, obviously, everyone should have a Dutch oven. You can choose your brand, whether it's Le Creuset, Staub, something else out there that you like, but everyone should have a Dutch oven, especially for the winter time. And, it never hurts to have a cast iron skillet. I don't use the cast iron skillet all the time, but it's good to have it because you never know. If you can have one non-stick pan for those times where you have to do like a perfect presentation, because the reality is you can't get, it's really hard to get a perfect omelet or a perfect seared piece of fish without using non-stick. But if you buy something non-stick, you need to toss it every year or two, depending on how often you use it. So if you're only using it like once a month, it can last 2 years. But if you're using it a few days a week, you need to toss it at the end of the year or as soon as it gets scratch marks.
Love it. I think it's so practical. And we have a couple episodes coming up, but not till later this year, about some of the toxins and things like that are, on our pots and pads and stuff. So I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about spices and having you here. I think spices are one of those ingredients similar to oil where people don't understand that, like, you think it should be one ingredient. You expect it to be one ingredient, so we don't read the label.
Yes.
Will you speak to spices and herbs and really, what we're looking for there?
Yeah. So spices and herbs are just like all the other food in our food system right now. You still have to read the ingredients. So what you want is a single origin spice. So you want to pick up your ground cumin and it just be ground cumin. You want to pick up your paprika and it just be Spanish paprika or Hungarian paprika and nothing else in there, which is not the case these days, especially with the spice blends. That's where you're going to find the biggest issue. That's where you're going to see citric acid. You're going to see anti-caking agents. You're going to see maltodextrin. You're going to see sugar. You should only see the spices. And it's really important that you look at that quality. you really do want to buy organic spices because spices and dried herbs are just the concentrated form of it fresh. So imagine a red pepper dried and ground, that's paprika. So you want to buy a quality version and from a good brand because you're getting that whole item dried and ground up. So it's going to be more concentrated. So you don't want it to be concentrated of herbicides, pesticides, insecticides. You want it to be free from that. Another thing that exists out there is radiation. So all spices that come into the United States get irradiated if they aren't labeled organic. And what irradiation means is the product comes in. So whether this is fruit, vegetables, or spices that are labeled non-organic, they put it in this giant metal box and then they click a button and radiate it, which is they basically send like a microwave frequency into it that is supposed to kill the bugs. But they've already discovered that it doesn't do that, but they've decided just to continue with the program. I went to culinary school back in 2015, and we were taught that the irradiation program in the United States, doesn't work. They showed us all the science that proved that it didn't, that the government knows about this, the FDA knows about this, but they're still irradiating all the food that comes into this country that's not labeled organic. So your food is then carrying that radiation in it, and then you're eating it, and people are wondering why they're getting sick. A big thing, I know we're focusing on spices, but like a big thing to keep in mind is like your bananas. So when your organic bananas come in, they aren't irradiated. But when the non-organic bananas come in, they're gassed, so they ripen faster, and then they're irradiated, and then they're sold to you. So sometimes we have to buy organic so we avoid these other things that are happening to our food. It's not just about how it's grown. In this day and age, these other things are happening. And, I like to think that everything's in our control, and we as a group of citizens could work together to get these practices changed, but not enough people know that they exist. So in the meantime, whether you're in the spice aisle, you're buying salt and pepper, even our salt, you need to pick it up, you need to turn it over, you need to look at the ingredients, and you just need to make sure that they're salt, that there is no added iodine, there's no anti-caking agents, there's no maltodextrin, there's nothing added to your salt. It's just sea salt. It's just, an ancient salt bed. It's just cumin. It's just coriander. It's an organic spice blend with nothing else added to it. Like, it's annoying, but you got to start. And then you'll find your brands that you can trust. And then still every 6 months, because you never know who's buying it and you never know how they're being forced to change their product, you need to check the ingredients. So I have found even with mustard brands that were clean, they had no added sugar, and now the mustard has sugar in it, and it didn't have sugar in it before. So things constantly change, but get comfortable reading the labels. Give yourself extra times at the grocery store. And I just try to tell myself we're just living in like a weird transitional time, but ultimately we get to decide what goes into our body. No one's forcing anything down our throats. We choose what goes in us, what nourishes us, what makes us feel good. You just have to identify that. And then also, if you're finding that your food's not tasting good, like maybe it's because of the quality of spices that you're buying. Remember? So like most of the spices you buy are only good on the shelf for a year or two. And then it loses not just the flavor profile, but it's losing its nutritional density, So it doesn't matter if you add a little bit of cinnamon on your oatmeal. If that cinnamon's 5 years old, the nutritional value is gone and dead. And the flavor is probably slightly rancid. So everything has a shelf life except salt.
Right. I love it. But I love the ending on this, which is basically like going back to the quality of the ingredients creates the quality of the food experience in eating it and tasting it, and then the quality of our energy and the quality of our lives. And I think the other piece that you mentioned that I love ending on is that there is this system all around us that with our awareness and then with our own purchasing habits and intentional choices, that's how we influence the system.
Yes, exactly. Well, we have to find a positive outcome, right? So you start in your community, which then leads to your county, which leads to your part of the state, which leads to your whole state. Like you make change where you can make change. So first within yourself, and then within your family, and then, the layers move out. And I have found, which I'm sure you have found on working in the health and wellness space, is your personal actions speak louder than words. And so when we practice what we preach, which is who we are and what we do, people naturally start to get curious on, why we're always happy and feeling good and able to show up. Like I haven't taken a sick day in 10 years. I haven't taken a sick day since 2014 when I was still an HR manager and worked in corporate America. Ever since I became a chef, I haven't needed to take a single sick day because I haven't been sick. So, it starts within us and then can echo out.
Love it. I think it's a beautiful place to end this conversation and go to our rapid fire off-topic questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
No pressure. What's the best thing you've done for your health this week? What's the naughtiest thing you've done for your health this week? Because, balance, good, better, best.
Yeah. So the best thing I've done for my health this week is I'm doing it right after the show, and I'm going to physical therapy. I'm going to have a great workout, and then I'm going to get on this amazing Beamer mat, which has these PEMFs that make me feel so good. And I put my legs in the compression bags and my arm in the compression bags, and I'm about to move into it. The naughtiest thing I've done for myself this week is I really don't consider anything naughty. I would say that I stayed on my phone a little bit too late in the evening because I like to turn that off because I know it affects how I sleep. And, I probably had a little bit too much dark chocolate, but that's okay. It's been a week.
Yeah. I mean, also balance, right? Like we need it all. All right. If you weren't a chef and the host of High Vibration Living podcast and the founder of High Vibration Foods, what would you do?
I would probably be a doctor.
Yeah.
I'd still work somehow in the health wellness space, or I would own some sort of health and wellness center where people could come and use all those different types of frequency machines and treatments.
Nice. Your favorite book on any topic other than your area of expertise, or you could give us a fiction book.
I love every book by Dr. Joseph Michael Levry, all kind of more spiritual books, but also just how your body works. And then I love Rebecca Wood's new Whole Foods Encyclopedia.
Excellent. If you could cure one ailment, disease, or sickness, what would it be?
Oh my God, inflammation.
Yeah, the root of everything. If you were a superhero, what would be your superpower?
I'd want to see into the future.
Ooh. All right. What's your biggest pet peeve?
People that complain about their health and they know better. They know the things that they need to make edits on and they aren't willing to do it. They just want to keep complaining about it.
Yeah. All right. Last one. In your opinion, what's the next frontier in wellness?
Frequency machines.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Tell everybody how to connect with you, where to find your spices, all the good things.
Thank you. Well, you can find me at starseedkitchen.com or at chefwhitneyaronoff.com. And on social media, whether it's Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, you can find me at Whitney Aronoff and at starseedkitchen.com. And then, of course, the High Vibration Living podcast is on Spotify and Apple.
Amazing. So we'll put links to everything down below so everybody can click and connect with you. Friends, on Friday in this week's bonus episode Nutrition Nugget, we're talking about midday squares. So these were actually recommended to me by Paul and his daughter, Kayla, who was also a client. We're on an episode last fall. So you guys have met Paul. So these were recommended by Paul. I saw him in person. He asked me to take a look at these, and kind of fitting for this week's episode where our focus is on the quality of ingredients, we're going to look at these snacks together on Friday in our Nutrition Nugget bonus episode. So be sure wherever you're listening, click the plus sign or the follow button, and then your app will alert you when it goes live on Friday. Whitney, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I love what you do. You do a great job of informing your guests on all the different sides of food and wellness. So it's always a treat to have a conversation with you because you're so well informed.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, as always, everybody, I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or all social media. I'm at Jenn Trepeck, JENNTREPECK. Website is asaladwithasideofries.com. Pick your platform, send a message. I love hearing from you, your ideas, your takeaways, your questions. This is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me as your health coach. And friends, if you are not already, join our membership by going to glow.fm/saladwithasideofries. This shows your support for this podcast, this community, and most importantly, it supports your health. Plus, you'll get this week's recipe for the chocolate raspberry cashew butter cups. So until next week, remember, when it comes to the foods you eat and even the spices and herbs you use, Food is energy, and quality matters. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.